Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of those days where you don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like recording any content. I'm feeling a little bit sick, but I want to bang out an episode. I want to get that momentum or keep that momentum going. So let's do an interesting kind of casual chill chat today. In the coaching program recently, like as in over the last, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months, we've had a bunch of people come into the program that just happen to be parents. And we've even had two people come to the coaching program literally with the specific goal of saying, I want to become a better father or a better mother, and I want to work on my parenting skills. And two of the people were fathers. And it's been this really, I guess, humbling experience to have people ask me and ask the rest of the group for parenting advice when I'm obviously not a parent. It's again very humbling, but also very like beautiful that people trust me enough to ask for some advice on something that I haven't actually done, but they trust my philosophies enough, I guess, or they trust my methods of, looking for solutions, giving yourself permission to suck, and all of that kind of stuff, to ask for advice from myself and the other people in the group. So it's been this really like fun experience over the last like 6 months. We've had these like deep conversations on, I kind of go at it from the angle of like philosophy on what it might be to like raise or mentor another human being, what that might mean, concepts of like libertarianism, like not forcing other people to do something that they don't want to do, and how that might relate to parenting, and maybe balancing that with sometimes there might be occasions that your kid doesn't want to do something, but it's incredibly beneficial for them to do it. And how do you navigate that without being sort of like, I think what a lot of parents do, where they just sort of force the kid to do it. But how can you do that in a way that sort of respects the child's sovereignty and sanctity and all of that, especially as the kids get older? So we've been having these like beautiful, deep conversations about these sort of topics, about how to be okay with your kids rebelling and not always doing every little thing that you want them to. And a book that's really helped a lot of the clients with that is I Need Your Love. Is That True? This beautiful book here by the amazing, lovely Byron Katie. This is probably the best relationship book that I've ever read. And it's a great sales book as well, like not forcing your audience or your customers or your clients to sign up if they don't want to. And it's also a really amazing parenting book, not forcing your kids to do something that they don't want to do, and instead finding ways to, I guess, be okay with their sovereignty, but balancing that with doing the best for them. And these are obviously very like interesting waters to navigate. So again, it's been this really interesting experience over the last 6 months. It's not something that I've talked about a lot, although I did do an interview with Martin on my channel. And you can find that on my channel. That's this one here in the middle. Single Dad Kept His Daughter and Other Victories. So you can search for that on my channel. But yeah, it's just been this really cool experience. And I've noticed that a lot of parenting, and, again, I don't have all the answers, I never claim to, but I've noticed that a lot of what has worked for some of these clients when it comes to parenting relates very much to like coaching. Coaching, I guess as you could call that mentoring, is very analogous. I can never say this word, analogous to, it's a very good analogy for raising a child. And so it's been this beautiful experience to get to see that some of the things that have helped me, or some of the things that I've learned as a coach kind of applies to children, and then applies to raising children, and then vice versa. And I've been asking a lot of my clients who have parents, I've been like picking their brain and saying, hey, how do you navigate this? Hey, when your kid does this, what do you do? Hey, when your kid throws a tantrum, what do you do? Hey, when your kid doesn't do what you want, how do you navigate that? And seeing how much of that applies to myself as a coach has helped me level up my coaching game as well. It's taught me a lot of empathy. It's taught me a lot of, like I said, really respecting other people's boundaries and not forcing other people to do what you want. Because you can kind of do that if you're a parent. You can kind of force your kids to do what you want them to do. But that kind of stops when they hit the teenage years. It's like they might be your little doormat and do everything you want them to do if you're forceful and aggressive and all of that. But as soon as they hit, like 11, 12, I mean, some kids even younger than that, some a little older than that, they start to rebel. And it's been interesting because this is kind of the pathway that Imogen, my girlfriend, went through. She grew up with a very, I guess I would say, strict father. He's 100% Chinese, or I guess he's like Chinese Malaysian, sorry, Chinese Malaysian, Chinese Singaporean. God damn it, I can't remember. Anyway, he's like Chinese, and he was very forceful with a lot of the rules. Like, you have to study piano, the classic Asian dad. You have to study piano, you have to study swimming, you have to get a job, you have to get straight A's in school, you have to do all of this stuff, you have to have a million extracurricular activities, you have to learn to play like I think she could play 4 different instruments, like musical instruments. And he was very like forceful with all of that. You have to be a doctor. If you're not going to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer. If you don't want to be a lawyer, holy crap, like, I'm disappointed, but then you can be an engineer. That's your final option, like one of those. And she felt all of this pressure her entire life, and she did everything she was told. But guess what happens when she hit 18, 19? And she met me, and she started to have a little taste of freedom. You know, I'm someone that asks people, what do you want? And her answer to that question was always, well, I guess I just have to do what dad tells me to do. I have to go to university and do this engineering course, which I don't care about. And I'm depressed and I literally hate this. And, I binge eat and I have bulimia to deal with this because I really don't want to be there. And I'm a neurotic mess and I'm just not happy. And holy crap, the thought of doing this engineering thing for the next 50 years of my life just fills me with existential dread. And I was like, okay, so what do you want? And it took a little while to tease that answer out of her. But eventually the answer was, well, I don't want to do this. I think I want to do art. I think I want to be an artist. And with a little gentle pushing and, some conversations over a period of several months, eventually she got to a point where, I would say to her, what do you want? And she'd say, okay, I think I want to drop out of university. Great, brilliant, do that. And so, in a way, she rebelled from her father. And there was a period there where he just kept using more and more force. But now she's a 19-year-old girl who's starting to get a little bit of boundaries and a little bit of that taste of freedom. And so what she did is, for about 3 months, 4 months, she sent him a message and told him that she was going to do this, but she just said, I need space. I'm not going to reply to any phone calls. Like, I'm not going to answer the phone. I'm not going to reply to any messages. Like, I'm going dark. I'm going to ignore you for 3 or 4 months. I just need space to figure myself out. And you're too forceful. And I don't think you respect my boundaries and what I want and my sovereignty as a human being. And so I'm going to go dark for 3 or 4 months. And, I encouraged her to still like check in, like, don't just, still like send him a message once every couple of weeks or something. So he knows you're not dead, because he's a Chinese parent. He's probably going to worry about that shit. And she did for like 3 or 4 months. She kind of just didn't talk to him and didn't talk to that side of the family. And that kind of ties in, I guess. I'm telling you all that story to talk about the fact that I've seen this with some of the parents in the coaching group, that they've been telling me this stuff, these lessons that they've learned, where they said, yeah, for a long time I tried to force my kids to do what I wanted them to do. And then at some point something just broke in their brain and they go, no, fuck you. I'm not going to do everything that you tell me to do. If I think it's unreasonable and I'm old enough now to start making those decisions, I'm not going to do everything you want. So we've been kind of like having these deep conversations, these philosophical conversations in the coaching group about what it means to raise another human being, how to respect their individuality while also still understanding the fact that they don't have a lot of knowledge about the entire world. There's a lot of stuff that they're missing. Do you let them just go play on the street and play in the middle of the freeway because they don't understand that that's dangerous? Do you let them play with knives because they don't understand that that's dangerous? Like, how do you respect their sovereignty and their individuality while still obviously keeping them safe and loved and looked after and all of that? So it's been really interesting philosophical discussions. And again, I don't have all the answers, and I don't coach these people. I don't coach these parents going, hey, me with no kids, let me fucking coach you on how to be a better parent. But that's what some of them, 2 of them in particular, came to the group for. They said, I want to be a better father. Can you guys and girls in the group help me with that? And so that's kind of what we've been helping them with. And we had a really interesting discussion with one of the guys who's been a father for like 13 years. And he's also worked in I don't know if he wants me to say this. I don't think he'd care, but just because I haven't asked him if he's okay with me saying this, I won't say it. But he works in a particular job where he helps mentor young kids, particularly those who are in need of, like, I'm trying to say this in a way, particularly those who are in need of a bit of help. I'll phrase it like that. So kids going through some rough shit, and some parents going through some rough stuff as well. And he works kind of in that industry. And We are also dating a girl right now who works in a children's hospital, which is kind of like a psych ward, like yeah, I guess you'd call it that. And so hearing her stories as well. Anyway, long story short, I'm rambling a little bit, but this particular client and the girl that we're dating right now have had some really cool like parenting lessons that they've learned from working with all these kids, and this client in particular from being a parent for 13 years. And so I asked him, like, can you tell me maybe three things that you've learned from being a parent and from working, for a decade or so with all these kids that you see come in that need a bit of help, that maybe aren't in the best mental state in their life, and maybe the parents are doing the best that they can, but they have their own host of mental issues as well. Like, what are the three biggest lessons that you've learned from all of this, like, raising and mentoring of kids? And so we're going to read out, and I've asked his permission for this and he's completely okay with this. We're going to read out some of the lessons that he has learned. So he says, my three biggest lessons, hard to pick. There's so many over 13 years. Again, his kid is 13 and he's worked with other kids as well. It's his job. But I can at least name three really important lessons I learned. And he actually ended up naming four. What an overachieving legend. Parenting can and probably will push you way beyond what you thought you were capable of. This is something that I've heard from a lot of parents. And my parents, the same thing. I've asked my parents, particularly my mother, I love to ask her questions like, you know, did you feel you were ready for parenting? What was it like raising, me and my sister? What is the most rewarding part of being a parent? Do you still feel like a parent today? And her answer to that, by the way, I'm 36 and my sister is like 30. So we've grown up, we've left the home, all of that. But her answer is like, yeah, you never stop being a parent. I still feel like your guys as parents. I've just had to learn to let go and disconnect and not babysit you guys. And that was a very big struggle for her. But anyway, back on the point here that parenting pushes you way beyond what you're capable of. I've heard that from so many different people that have become parents. And I have a couple of friends that are parents as well, and they've said the same shit. And I would say that relates pretty strongly to coaching as well. Like, coaching can and probably will push you way beyond what you thought you were capable of. Absolutely. I'll definitely say, like, the style of YouTube channel, and I have a podcast as well, and I have a blog where I write articles and stuff like that. But the style of content that I do where I'm trying to help people, like I said, it's very similar to parenting. Like, you guys aren't my kids, but people will come to me with like a lot of naivety, like a child would. I did a coaching live stream a couple of days ago with Cam, and some of the questions there, and I love all questions, but some of the questions are like very, very, very beginner questions, like, help, I'm in the friend zone, what should I do? And, in the same way that a child might come to you with a question that's like causing them a lot of suffering or a lot of confusion or something like that. And your role is to try and distill that complex idea down into an easily digestible, bite-sized little piece so that they can actually understand what you're saying and take action on it and all of that. That can be an interesting challenge. There's a lot of stuff that as a coach. There's a lot of stuff that as a parent. I mean, of course, way more than your child. And it's an interesting, unique challenge. Or I've heard it from my parents, and I've heard it from all of these guys and girls in the coaching program who are parents, where they say, yeah, it's really interesting, like trying to explain a concept that like you just understand. Like, go to bed at a reasonable hour because otherwise you'll be fucking tired the next day. But your kid might not understand that. And you have to sort of like find ways to relate your philosophy or your concept or what you're trying to get across to them. Find ways to relate that to their current sphere of knowledge. Like, they might not understand complex ideas. And so you might not be able to explain something to them. You might have to think like, oh, fuck, how do I dumb this down? And there's a subreddit called Explain It Like I'm 5. And the whole point is, in that subreddit, people will ask a complex question, but say, pretend I'm 5 and just explain it to me like I'm dumb, like I'm 5. And that's kind of the role of parenting. And at times, that is the role of coaching. That is the role of my content. And you guys and girls in the audience, if you've never been a coach or you've never worked, as a therapist or something like you've never tried to help people, you've never been a mentor, if you haven't been a parent, you might not realize that people come to you with different tiers of questions, or like, what's another way of saying that? Some people are at like a very advanced stage in their goals or in self-improvement or whatever it is that they're working on. And they might ask you a question that's like very high level. And you're basically, you can take for granted that for them to be able to ask that question, they obviously have a lot of knowledge below that. Like, you don't have to explain basic concepts to the person that's like, hey, Andy, so I've had sex with like 50 women and now I'm looking to like build a relationship and build marriage. And, I'm just thinking of the philosophies that I want to have as a husband and as a father. And like, any tips on how to craft, my idea of my life philosophies. It's like, to that person, there are so many pieces of information and knowledge that they already have to be asking that question. But then at the same time, you'll get someone else who will come along and say, help Andy, I'm in the friend zone. Or like, what's another like very beginner question? Like, help Andy, like, what message do I send women on Tinder? Or, a woman might say, hey, Andy, I like this guy. And like, what do I do? Like, what do I do about it? Like, that to me is a very beginner question. And that's not to judge the question in any way, shape, or form. We all have questions, blah, blah, blah. But it's a very beginner question. And so to that person, I'm probably not going to explain higher level concepts like, I'm probably not going to bring up like the fear of death or do you really need this person to like you? What bad thing happens if they don't like you? Like the higher level stuff, I'm probably to them just going to give them very actionable, easy to understand and easy to digest question, a solution. Right? I'm just going to say, what if you go up to this guy and just say, hi, how's your day going? Would you like to grab a drink with me after work? I'll give you a very basic answer to that question. And from the parents in my coaching group, they've said that parenting is like that, but on maybe a longer time scale. So like when your kids are young, you're giving them very easily digestible answers to their questions. And then they get a little older and you almost need to upgrade the answers that you give and mix in a little bit more philosophy, mix in a little bit more libertarianism and letting them make their own decisions and their own mistakes and all of that. And then they get a little older and it's like, okay, now I'm talking to them almost like an adult. And then when they do hit adulthood, now I have to treat them like an adult. And that's like an interesting process of like, I still remember, like you're still remembering when they were a young kid and a little baby, and now they're like 8 years old and you have to treat them differently. And then when they get to 15, you're like, fuck, I still remember when you were like 8 years old, but now you're an adult. Holy crap. Like you have to keep upgrading. And this is something that my parents or my mother has said was an interesting, I don't know if challenge is the right word, but an interesting challenge for her was watching myself and my sister grow up, and they grow up a lot quicker than you think, which is kind of what, this guy said about lessons that he's learned with parenting is they grow up very quick and like you're having to constantly catch up almost with the level of answers that you give and the respect that you give your kids and the freedom that you give them and all of that. Because obviously a toddler, you don't give them much freedom because they'll just walk out onto the road and they'll die. But as they get older, you're kind of giving them more and more freedom. And coaching is a very interesting thing because you're constantly bouncing around in those different mindsets. Like someone will, especially on a live stream where I'm answering a bunch of questions at once, but even when I jump into the comment section, someone will ask me an extremely beginner question, like I said, of like, help Andy, I'm in the friend zone, what do I do? Which to me is just the most beginner question in the entire universe. Like the answer is, you ask her out or him out. If they say no, cool, then you go talk to the next person. Like that to me is like, not even a question. Like, and again, no judgment on the question whatsoever. I, had women that I had crushes on and was friends with for ages, and I wanted them. And one of my best friend was in the friend zone for like 4 years with this one girl that he really liked until he finally worked up the courage to sit her down and say, look, I like you. You know that. You've known that for 4 years. Do you like me back? And she's like, I like you as a friend. Ha ha ha. And he's like, no, stop. You know what I mean? Do you like me in a relationship sense? And she's like, I just don't know. And he's like, I like you so much. And this is hard for me to say because I've liked you for so long and you know that. And I have dreams of us being in a relationship and all of that stuff, but you're clearly not interested. I can't be friends with you anymore. And that was like such a big thing for him. So I understand that to some people, that's a mountain to climb. But the further you get, you see that that was like the most beginner question, or that was like the first question. There's like 10 billion questions after that, and 10 million higher goals and higher questions and higher philosophies and all of that. Anyway, so someone will ask me a beginner question, and then 2 minutes later, someone is saying, Hey, Andy, what do you think about Nietzsche? What do you think about Jung? What do you think the meaning of life is, Andy? What do you think happens when we die? Andy, how do you live your life without any regrets and blah, 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 blah? Andy, how have you achieved peace and love and all of that when you were so depressed and suicidal? They'll ask me like a higher level sort of question. And I'm bouncing back and forwards between those different modes in my head of like, okay, this is a beginner question. Be gentle with this person. Like, remember when you were back in that position, like 10 or 15 years ago. Like, remember how it felt. Like, empathize with them, be gentle, show them some love, just give them some baby action steps. Don't overcomplicate the solution, because if you do, they'll probably get overwhelmed. Don't talk about higher level concepts, because you'll probably just confuse them right now. Just give them a bite-sized little answer. And then 2 seconds later, oh God, this guy wants a higher level answer. Don't give him the most like beginner answer, because he might find that patronizing, or he might say, I already know that. Like, give him a higher level. And you're constantly like bouncing back and forth. So that's maybe a similarity, and I guess also a difference between coaching and maybe what people have told me that parenting is like, as a parent, you're changing your answers as the kid grows up. Like, you're giving them more freedom and more philosophy and more higher level concepts. But me as a coach, I'm jumping back and forwards between that all the time. And that can be incredibly tiring. That's part of the reason why I don't do a lot of live streams. I personally at least find it very tiring. I don't get that in the coaching group, because there are 4 coaches in the group, including myself, and there's everybody else in the coaching group who gives each other answers and is there for each other. So it doesn't feel so much like the burden of the answer is on me. But when I do a live stream, even if I have Cam there, which I've done once now, but most of the live streams before that were me just sort of answering people's questions, I find that incredibly tiring, because I'm jumping back and forwards between modes, and also the fact that I'm sitting there for 2.5 or 3 hours talking nonstop. That's very draining. That's incredibly draining, but I still enjoy those things. It's just that's part of the reason why I don't do live streams very much. All right, the next lesson that this parent and this coaching client learned is your own flesh and blood comes before everyone else. I made some mistakes here, so this one was learned the hard way. I don't have a lot to say in this other than my parents have been very loving to me. I've talked about the fact that I always knew that they loved me, even though my father wasn't the most amazing, perfect father, but I knew that he loved me, and I knew that he probably would have laid down his life for me if it ever came to that, and I definitely know that about my mother. And so, yeah, not really much to add to that one. Number 3, no success can replace being a good or at least a decent dad. So what he's talking about here is he's found in his own life that being there for his child and loving his son has brought him so much more joy than any sort of personal success. I've kind of found the same thing with coaching, hey? Like, I've made it my mission to serve people, to serve all of you, to serve my clients because they help me pay the bills, to serve Imogen in a way. And when I say serve, don't take that as like slave or servitude or me not doing what I want. Serve is just a nice way of saying, how there's like the love languages. So there's like, physical touch, words of affirmation. One of them is acts of service. And people get a lot of joy, not everyone, but lots of people get a lot of joy out of serving others, being of service to others. So that's probably a better way of saying it. You're not serving as a slave. Like, I'm not all of your slaves. You can't just tell me to do something and I'll do it. Like, I'll probably just say, hey, I love that. No, I'm not going to do what you want. Like, but it's more like you're of service to people. You're of use to people. You want to be of value. Value is probably the best word. You want to be of value to people. And so I found every time I'm of value to another human being, like I sat down with a guy for one of those $200 coaching calls yesterday, and Jesus Christ, that was just like me being of service or of value to him for like 2.5 hours. It was basically it was literally a counseling session, like a therapy session. I walk away from that, tired, obviously, that's quite draining, but feeling fulfilled in the most beautiful way of like, holy shit, like I was actually able to be there for someone else. And that's what I try to be for all of you in this content, in this YouTube channel, on my Spotify, on my blog. I'm trying to be of service to people. And I found that makes me, and I'm talking about myself, just like this client is talking about himself, I find that makes me happier than any personal success. Obviously, I love personal success. I love achievement. I love goals. I have goals. I'm making progress on them. I'm working on them. and I've done a lot in the past and had a lot of success. But I find the most happiness comes from being of service to other people. In other words, being a good, I won't say I'm your dad, because I say all the time, I'm not your fucking dad. I'm just some bald guy on the internet. But being I don't know, a mentor to a lot of you, a coach, just an interesting, entertaining guy, hopefully, who's giving you some information that helps you, whatever you want to call that. Andy. I'm Andy to all of you. But I found that brings me some of the most value that I get in my life. And I've absolutely found that in my relationship with Imogen, my girlfriend, as well. Like, as I can be there for her, as I can help her learn things and grow and build and all of that, I've found so much joy in that rather than personal success. And there's nothing wrong with personal success, to be very clear. This is more just what I personally have found that I get the most value out of, and this coaching client as well. But for a lot of you, you have personal ambitions, you have goals, and you go, I care about those things more than anything else. Brilliant. Chase your personal dreams, chase your personal success. I want you to do whatever makes you happy. And the fourth bonus one is you won't ever feel worthy of your responsibility. Being a dad now is more fun than it's ever been, and I've only become better as a dad after I started with coaching. That's nice to hear. But yeah, we've been giving him a lot of philosophies and insights, and he's done a lot of work. But particularly, let's stick a gap between that. I think this was the fourth one, just that by itself. You won't ever feel worthy of your responsibility. Yeah, I feel like that as a coach, absolutely. And my parents told me that. I asked my mother about all of these, by the way, and she said she can relate to all of these, but the one that she could most relate to was the fourth one. And my dad felt like that too. They were like, you don't feel like you're worthy of being a parent. Like, the kid just kind of comes out quicker than you expect. I know you have 9 months to prepare for it, but like this client and my mother said, it feels like it just creeps up on you, and all of a sudden the baby's there and it's demanding, like, help. You have to feed me. You have to look after me. You have to teach me. You have to make sure I don't die. You have to make me happy. And you're like, holy fuck, I don't think I'm ready for this. And the responsibility that comes from not just generating or creating a new life, but also then raising it and mentoring it. And some of the decisions that child makes, especially in the future, like, the responsibility, it can be easy to say the responsibility is on me, because it is, in a way. You raise the kid. And the older they get, obviously they start to have their own sovereignty and individuality and all of that, and the decisions become their own and not so much a reflection of you. But people will still put a lot of pressure on themselves, obviously, for obvious reasons, that, like, I have to do a good job as a parent, because what if they go out into the world and they're not happy, or they hurt other people or something? So people take a lot of responsibility for raising another human being. Obviously, that's a beautiful thing. And I find that I do a little bit too as a coach. I put a lot of responsibility, I won't say on, I think that's a good way of saying it. I put a lot of responsibility on my role as the coach, particularly, like, a lot less so for you and you, the person listening right now, and a lot more so for my coaching clients. Because I phrase this in a nice way. For a lot of you, I'll phrase it in a clumsy way, whatever, and you can kind of understand what I mean. For most of you, like 99.9% of you, you haven't paid me any money, and you never will pay me any money. Like, you're not interested in paying people money, and beautiful, great. I obviously feel less responsibility for your happiness because you haven't paid me any money. I'm still here to serve you and be of value to you. I want to help you. I care about you, but I don't know you. You're one of, like, at this point, across all of my platforms, you're one of like 20,000 people. Like, I can't care about you. I don't know you. You're anonymous. And I still, even that sounds like a harsh way of saying it. So maybe I can rephrase. I said I'd be clumsy with this. I care about you. I can only care about you so much. And you only come to see that when you're a content creator or when you have a decent audience. You're like, okay, it's like the brain literally isn't physically wired to care about a mass of people. That's why, like, governments and leaders and people in power can often appear psychopathic. It's just that they can't care about, like, if you're the president of America, you cannot care about 250 million individual human beings. Like, you just can't. 350, whatever it is in America. You can't care about that many people. It's just literally not possible. The brain is not wired for that. You can't keep that amount of information in your head at once. And so you can just start to see it as a big mass of people. And that's kind of what it's like when you have 10 or 20,000 people, across all my platforms that you're trying to help. When someone then signs up for one of the $200 coaching calls, I care about you more. Like, understand that when you pay me money, you're paying me to care about you. That is probably the biggest mechanism of the money. You're paying me to care about you. You're paying me to get in there and ask you questions and get your feedback and have your responses and look at your life, not just an audience's life. You're actually paying me to care about you, the individual. That's why you're paying me money, so that I can focus on you and so that I can have gratitude for you because you're paying my bills. It's a beautiful reciprocal relationship. But anyway, the point that I'm getting to is, when someone pays me money, and particularly when they become a coaching client, of the big hardcore coaching program, I absolutely put a lot of responsibility on myself to genuinely change that person's life, particularly in the proper big coaching program, because they've paid me a big chunk of money, a decent chunk of money. Like, you could buy a car for that amount of money. They've paid me the worth of a car. I guess it wouldn't be a brand new car. It's cheaper than a new car, but you're paying me a big chunk of money. I have a lot of responsibility. And people who sign up for coaching are often, I would just say almost all the time, incredibly open and vulnerable and trusting. They're saying, Andy, I'm not only trusting you with all this money, but I'm trusting you with my vulnerability. I'm trusting you when I open up to you and tell you the things that have bothered me. I'm trusting you with my long-term happiness, so to speak. I'm trusting you with all of this stuff. Please take responsibility. Please be aware of that. Please be respectful to what I am handing over to you. And none of them ever say this, by the way, but that's that's the pressure that I put on myself, or I guess it's the role or the responsibility that I step into as people's coach. I want to help them. Well, I want to leave them better than I found them. I want them to walk away better. But I'm there to add a lot of value to their life. I'm there to genuinely change their life. That is the mindset that I have with every single coaching client. I'm going to change this person's life. Like not just a little bit. I'm going to genuinely change the entire course of the rest of this human being's life. And I probably put as much responsibility on myself as like a parent would. Okay, a parent will put more responsibility because it's for a longer time and it's their flesh and blood and all of that. But it feels like at times the intensity of it is just as strong. It's the reason, understand that is the reason why I've set up the coaching program to have the long-term structures. I've talked about this a billion times. The coaching program isn't just come to the program and work with me and the other coaches for 12 weeks and then fuck off, goodbye. No, there's a members only section, which is like an accountability group. It's a Discord group, but it's like it's an accountability coaching group for the rest of your life that people stay in. And there's also a members only section where we have members only videos and courses and ebooks and stuff like that. And we're always adding more shit to that, because for the longest time when people would sign up for coaching, it was kind of just come to me for 12 weeks. I'll change your life in those 12 weeks. And then good luck, bitch. I hope you can do the rest of your life by yourself. And I never really wanted that. I didn't like how that felt, because people would come back to me a year or two later and they'd go, I need more coaching. And I was like, fuck, that's not me being responsible. Or it's not that that's irresponsible, because that's how most coaching programs and therapists and shit work, by the way. It's like, I'll talk to you while you're paying me. And the second you're not paying me, fuck off. Why would I talk to you? And so that's not unethical or irresponsible. No, but I wanted something more than that. I wanted more responsibility. I wanted to help people more. And so I wanted something that was lifetime. And obviously I can't physically coach someone for the rest of their life, because there's at this point 100 people or so in there that have come through that program. So, it's not possible for me to coach 100 people and that number will only increase over time. But I wanted to set up structures where other people coach them forever, where there's members only content, where there's an accountability group and a coaching group and logs and basically a forum, but a forum of people who are hardcore serious, but a killer's forum. They're all absolute fucking killers about their life, and they can all push each other and help each other. A forum or a little accountability group. It's not little now, it's 100 people of legends. And I wanted to set that up for that level of responsibility of okay, this person is coming to me. And it was never even about the money. The money wasn't what made me want to take on more responsibility. It was the vulnerability. So many people that come to coaching, and you don't have to be vulnerable if you come to coaching, by the way. You can just come and have some goals and we'll push you and you'll achieve them and you'll stay in the group for life and all of that shit. Great. But I don't know, 50% of people that come to the coaching, maybe more than that, but at least 50% come and are just so unbelievably vulnerable, insanely vulnerable. And that felt like a gift, and it felt like, I guess I always fully understood the vulnerability that they were showing me, and that I almost had it's not quite like this, but maybe it is like this. I almost had a life in my hands, and I had their future to some degree. I'm not like the sole architect of their future, obviously. That's mostly up to them. But I understood that they were putting their life in my hands to some extent and saying, Andy, I trust you. Here's my life. Please look after it. Please nurture it. Please help me. Like, please help my brain. Please help my mental health. Please help my emotions. You know, a lot of people, or some people, maybe, I don't know, 30% of people come to the coaching very fucking emotional and vulnerable and in a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. Maybe 70% of people that come are, you know, not that emotional. They're fine. They just want to push and to achieve big things. But a decent chunk are very vulnerable, very emotional. And I think I saw that as like, or I wanted to see that as my role, to have responsibility and to nurture them and to love them and to look after them for the rest of their life as best as I possibly could. And so it seems to be, from parents that I've talked to, they see their job as that same, or they see their role as that same sort of mission or that same sort of purpose of like, this child, their life is literally in my hands. Especially if you're a parent, your child is literally, their life is in your hands, especially when they're young. And so they saw that role and they were like, I want to do as good a job as I can with that, but I don't feel worthy of that. I don't feel like I'm good enough for that. I don't feel like I have all the answers. I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. Like, why is this child trusting me? And they don't have a choice. Like, you're the parent. That's why they trust you. But why the fuck are they trusting me? I don't know what I'm doing. And that's how I often feel as a coach too. I'm like, I don't have all the answers. It's why you'll hear me say in content sometimes, I'm not your dad. I don't know. This is all just a big experiment. Like, life is all just a big experiment. It's fun, it's play, it's a game. Try different things, see what works. It's why I don't say there's any mistakes. It's why I don't talk about like rejection. What is rejection? What is mistakes? You learned something. This was an experiment. You ran an experiment. You found out it didn't work the way you wanted it to. Go try something else. Like, how would that ever be a failure or a mistake? What the fuck is a failure or a mistake? It's a learning. You've learned something. That's amazing. But yeah, I often don't feel worthy of the responsibility. I certainly don't feel worthy of having 10,000 YouTube subscribers. You know, we just hit 10,000. I don't feel worthy of having another 10,000 people across my blog and Spotify and email list and all of that shit. I don't feel worthy for any of that. I'm just some random ball guy who used to be depressed and now isn't, you know, who learned how to have a lot of sex and threesomes and BDSM. And I'm just some guy that's like done an okay job of being in a relationship with my girlfriend for the last 6 years. I don't have all the answers. I don't feel worthy of the responsibility or the position that I'm in. You know, something that happens a lot when I sit down with someone for one of the $200 coaching calls. I swear to God, this happens like 90% of the time. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. It's basically become a running joke with Imogen and Cam and I. And I mean a joke in a good way. But like, we'll start the call and they'll be like, Andy, oh man, like you probably get this a lot. And I'm like, yep, like basically 90% of the time. But I let them say what they're going to say. They're like, you probably get this a lot, but man, oh, it's just so weird to be sitting down here with you, man. Like, you know, I've just watched your content for so long and now like you're right here and the background looks the same because when I do my coaching calls, everything's the same as what you see on this video. I just sit right here in this chair with all the lights on and everything. And it's exactly like this. And they're like, oh, it's weird to be talking to you, man. It's like the YouTube video is talking back to me, man. I've watched you for so long. This is so weird. Like, oh, I can't believe I'm really here with you. And I hear that so many times, and every time I hear it, I'm like, but I'm just like some dude. Like I'm some dude that used to be depressed and obese and just not really happy, and I wanted to kill myself. Like, why do you respect me? And I know why you do. I know why people do all the stuff that I've done and I've achieved, but it's still a funny position to be in. And I've heard it from lots of parents that they feel like that too. The kid will look up at them as if they're some sort of god, and they'll be like, Daddy, you're so smart. You know everything. And the dad's like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And that can come with a lot of pressure. And one of the fathers in our coaching group, we gave him this big epiphany. I sat down with him for like a private call, one-on-one call, and I gave him this big epiphany because he'd been putting all this pressure on himself for the last like 8 years of raising his kids, and he's a single dad now. And he'd been putting all this pressure on himself that he had to do a good job and have all the answers and never make a mistake and never fail and just be a perfect parent and not do anything wrong, or he might fuck his kids up, and, you know, all of that kind of pressure. And I said, what if you're just completely honest with your kids? Like, they're old enough now. They're 6 and they're 8. These aren't toddlers anymore. You know, they're not going to walk outside and kill themselves. They're reasonably independent, as independent as you can be as a 6, 8, and 8-year-old. But what if you're just honest with them? What if you just tell them that you don't feel worthy of this responsibility? What if you just tell them that you don't know what you're doing, that you don't have all the answers, that you're just figuring out life the same way that they are? And what if you tell them, I'm really excited to learn. I'm really excited to do my best. And sometimes I'm going to get it wrong. I'm a human being. Daddy's a human being. Sometimes I'm not going to have all the answers. Sometimes I'm not going to know what to do in the moment. But I'm going to try my fucking best. I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow. I'm going to make progress. I'm going to get better. I'm going to pay coaches. I mean, he's kind of paying me for this exact thing, or paying us for this thing. I'm going to read books. I'm going to listen to podcasts. You guys are going to give me feedback. Like, you can tell me if you want me to do something different. You can tell me if there's something that I'm not giving you that you really need. We can all kind of work together on this, and we can be a team. How does that sound? And he said he almost cried when he was telling me this. He said it was one of the most like transformative, sort of beautiful experiences that he'd ever had, because they kind of just really opened up and they were like, wow, we thought you knew everything. Like, thank you for telling us. Yeah, we'd love to help you be a better dad, and you can help us be better daughters, and we can be this beautiful connected family unit where we're all kind of helping each other. And so that's kind of an answer that at least helped him. And I've had, one other client do the exact same thing. And he did it before me. I didn't push this other client. But this other client was just very honest with his kids. And he was like, or his daughter, and he was like, Daddy doesn't always know what he's doing, but Daddy's going to do his best, and I'm going to improve, and all of that. So that honesty can really be a beautiful thing. And I say the same in relationships. I say the same even in like casual dating. Give yourself permission to like see the other person as on your team, and you can just tell them, I don't always know what I'm doing. Here's my flaws. Here's the things I'm working on. But God damn, I'm excited to improve. I'm excited to keep working on this. This is like my number one go-to answer when some guy is a virgin or just very inexperienced, and he's like, man, I don't know what to do. I'm putting all this pressure on myself. What if the girls reject me? What if they hate me? What if they find out that I'm a virgin? And I'm like, tell them. Why have you not told them? Just tell them that you're a virgin. Be honest. Be like, hey, I'm inexperienced. I haven't had sex, but I'm so excited to learn. You don't even know how excited I am to learn. I got this bucket list I wrote of all this shit I want to try. I want to learn your body and how it works. I want to learn how to pleasure you. I want to make you feel fucking amazing. I want us to learn together. This is going to be like Disneyland. I'm so excited. And this is exactly what all of my virgin clients have done. And they've just been that brutally honest. And 90% of the women are like, wow, that sounds cool. Thanks for telling me. Yeah, I'd love to learn with you. I'd love to help you grow. I'd love to help you explore. So that honesty can just be such a beautiful thing. So he goes on to say, being a dad now is more fun than it's ever been, and I've only become better as a dad after I started with coaching. Again, that's amazing to hear. It's so strange. He's got his own life, as in his kid. His life is not mine, but he is crazy similar to me. So in a way, it's almost like I get to live my life over again and tell myself and show myself all the things that I wished someone told me and showed me at that age. This is literally why I'm a coach. Literally 100% why I'm a coach, why I do this YouTube channel, why I do all my content. It's literally that little bit I highlighted. It's like I get to live my life over again and tell myself all the things that I wish someone had told me and showed me at that age. That's why I'm a coach. That's why I'm here. It's so that all of you who are going through something that I might have struggled with or I might have been confused about, you get to like leapfrog over the top of me and blast through things that I struggled with for years. I can say one sentence to you and you won't struggle with that for the next 5 years like I did. Like, that's why I do this shit. It's so I can sit down with someone who's not sure how to talk to women, or someone who's depressed and suicidal, and I can literally sit there for an hour or two, and then at the end of that they walk away and they go, wow, okay, holy crap, I know what to do now. And then I look back at my own life and I'm like, wow, I freaking struggled with that, like the depression shit, for like 9 years. And in like 1 or 2 sessions with someone who's depressed, I can just give them these insights that make them go, holy fuck, like, oh my God. And it's like, well, that took me like 8 years to figure that out. I mean, more than that, like 15 years to figure that out. Holy shit. That's why I'm a coach. It's like I'm playing a video game and I get to like reload my old save game files and play through again. It's not me playing through it. It's you. It's whoever I'm coaching or whoever I'm helping. But I get to watch you almost play out the thing that I didn't get to do, or that took me like 10 years to do. And that's so incredibly rewarding. And people have told me that's like the most rewarding part of being a parent. And the most beautiful thing is you get to, hopefully, if you do a decent job, of being a parent or being a coach. You get to hopefully watch them go further than you, be better than you, evolve more than you, learn more than you, and be smarter than you. I think that's the mission or the desire of every parent. And it's absolutely the desire of me as a coach. Not every coach, but like most coaches want you to be better than them. Or I'll say the good coaches, the coaches that I would recommend you hand your money to, which again is not just me. There's plenty of coaches like this, but I would recommend you hand your money to a coach that wants you to be better than them. I wrote an article many years ago, way back in 2019, so 4 or so years ago, called "You Can Be Better Than Your Idols," and I literally talked about like how to be better than your idols, how to be better than me. Like I literally said, make the most of the information I'm giving you, kick my ass and the asses of all your idols. You'd be letting me down if you didn't. I wouldn't say that now. I wouldn't tell you that you're like letting me down if you don't, go further than me. But the sentiment's still like the same. But yeah, the point is, being a parent, being a coach, you want your kids or you want your clients, you want your audience to do better than you, to go further than you, to evolve more than you, to try things that you never tried. It's why I don't sit there and say I have all the answers. And it's why you won't hear me like, hopefully you won't. You might in older content, but I don't do this anymore. You won't see me like digging my heels in and arguing with you and saying like, no, you're wrong. Like, do it my way. Otherwise you're wrong. Like, it's my way is the correct way. No, because like I probably might be, I won't say probably. There's a very good chance I'm wrong when I say do it my way. So I'd rather see how you do it, and I'll help guide you, and I'll show you what worked for me. That's what this channel is. That's what my coaching is. I'll show you what worked for me. But then if you say, that sounds great, but I want to try something different, I'm like, good. Can you please tell me like how it works? And I do that with my clients, and even the people that sit down with me for one of the $200 coaching calls, I will say to them, I'll send them an email afterwards and I'll say, or I'll just say it on the call at the end of the call. I'll be like, yo, can you like email me like, I don't know, 6 months or a year or 2 years from now and just like tell me how you went with this? Cause I'm like genuinely curious, like how this works for you. I'm trying to gather information. And lots of those people do email me like 6 months later and they're like, hey dude, here's how it's going. And I'm like, fucking thank you. Cool. I've learned something. So yeah, keep reading. I could talk for hours about all of this stuff. Yeah, man, I could talk for hours about parenting, even though I'm not a parent, because it's just so similar to coaching. I could talk for years about coaching. I'm clearly very passionate about coaching. It's a lot of fun. I could talk for hours about this stuff. It's a mind-bending experience. Yeah, so is being a coach. Because being a coach is like you have, and you guys aren't my children, but like being a coach is like you have hundreds of children, but they're further along than a child, obviously. You guys are not children, but it's like you're working with hundreds or thousands of different people. So it's so trippy. I think my father lives on in me. Sometimes I say something just like dad would have said it, and I go, where did that come from? I wonder if my son will feel that I live on in him. I hope so, at least the good sides. And then you probably can't tell from, maybe you can tell, but this guy is such a wonderful human being. Like the answer to this is like, will the good parts of me or the parts that I like of me, will they live on in my son? It's like, yes. Knowing this guy, absolutely. This guy is like such a wonderful human being. When he finishes his coaching, which he's only like, I don't know, a month into the coaching, he's only really just started. But when he finishes his coaching, I'll see if he wants to come on the podcast because he's such a fascinating human being and he's such a loving, wonderful human being. So the answer to that question is like, yes, of course he will. I think your son will end up being a lot more like you than you think. This guy's like an absolute boss, by the way. He's already started doing some crazy shit. Probably the most interesting thing he did is he was at the grocery store the other day and he had his son with him again. His son's like 13, 14. And he had his kid with him and he's like, there's a cute woman over there that I want to go talk to. And he pushed himself to do it. And he went over and talked to her and, hey, you're pretty. And I wanted to say hi, had a little chat, came back. And he's kind of showing his son these beautiful, like masculine, it's not even masculine. He's just showing his son that like the rest of the world isn't scary. People like there's no stranger danger. Maybe there's stranger danger when you're like below 10 years old or some shit. But as you start to get older, it's like strangers are just friends that you haven't met yet. And so I love that he's putting himself out there like that. He's been incredibly fucking brave with some of the stuff he's done. He already like quit his job too. Like in the coaching, he's like, fuck it, I'm not enjoying this job. And he's quit his job. He started his own side business now. So we've been helping him with that. Obviously been helping him a little bit with like going out there, or a lot, I say, going out there and talking to women and approaching and stuff like that. So he's working on business. He's working on women. He's working on happiness and mental health. And Yeah, he's such a wonderful human being. Yeah, the question of like, is my son, are parts of me going to live on in my son? It's like, yeah, most of you is going to live on in your son. He has so many beautiful facets to him. He's very intelligent too. He's very like philosophical. He's read like Nietzsche, Jung, and all of that. He's very much into like enlightenment and Buddhism and those kind of concepts and the way the mind works and that. So, yeah, I think a lot of the philosophies that he has will live on in his son. If you would like more help with any of your goals, if you want to be part of the coaching program, if you want to meet this guy, actually, if you sign up in the next couple of months, you'll meet this guy. But if you'd like to be part of the coaching program, we would absolutely love to have you there. We have payment plans. If you can pay $500 a month, you are eligible for a payment plan. I also have $200 coaching calls. So if you can't afford $500 a month, you can't afford the big coaching program, you can jump on a call with me for $200. And like I said, I just did one yesterday. It went for like 2.5 hours. That was just this like hardcore, amazing therapy session that was just absolutely fucking beautiful and amazing. But sometimes I sit down and I push people with their goals, or I give them a plan of action. I help people lose their virginity. A $200 call, I can help you a lot more than you think I can. You think it's just a call, but it's like most people will walk away from those going like, holy fuck, like, dude, this is some amazing shit. And a lot of those people sit on those calls and go, man, I need more of this. I'm signing up for the coaching program. This like changed my life. I'm signing up for the coaching program. So links to all of that is down below. What do we hit? 50 minutes today? Not bad for a day. Like I said, if you go back and listen to the start of this video, I literally said today's the day I don't want to be here. I don't want to record content. I'm tired. Today is just one of those days. And look, we came out with a pretty decent episode. So use that as motivation in your own lives. If you don't feel like doing something today, what if you give yourself permission to suck and just take one little baby step forward, take a little bit of action, and hey, leave a comment down below and tell us what action you took. As always, ladies and gentlemen, go out there and crush those goals.